That definitely was a faint plan. Alright, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stickity Stacks in this thing, baby. Representing TKOG. Huge surprise. Konami definitely caught me off guard. Normally, people are so eager with anticipation and low-key getting anxiety waiting on the ban list that more often than not, it's always like this feeling of dissatisfaction where people never get the ban list when they expected it. But this time they dropped it super early. They dropped it well ahead of schedule. Did not see that coming. And they dropped some bombs, bro. I'm talking about, dude, I'm getting 2019 format vibes all over again. Like 2019 Nats format. That was the last Nationals we ever had before the virus kind of just came and screwed everything up. So I'm really happy about this list, honestly. We're going to talk a little bit about it. But I'm really happy. And now you guys are going to get to see my crazy... if you guys have been following me long enough, I had a crazy Salamangreat 60 card list that I never got to share because when I was talking about doing it and I was in the process of getting ready to do it, I was still theory crafting and stuff, and I had to borrow Cyanide Minings from a friend. They actually banned Mirage Stalio, and they hit a couple other solid cards, and it totally destroyed my strategy. So you guys finally get to see that Salamangreat list, because with this card being out, I can play the list that I wanted to play in the first place for Salamangreats. Whoops, I just took Mirage Stalio out. But this ban list is definitely, I mean, people are still going to complain like big old babies no matter what you take off, but I do think that Konami did a good job. I think that low-key, they probably have some spies just planted in different locals, and they listen, but I feel like at the end of the day, they still are trying to make their money before they please the players. But what ended up happening was Konami finally decided to hit LP. Is this the end of Dragon Link? No, it's definitely not. I promise you it's not. This deck is still crazy no matter what. You guys also have to keep in mind, like, were we resolving LP 100% of the time? No, this card would get hand trapped and we'd still be able to combo. Now, having access to only one Striker Dragon does change things a bit. We are going to have to look outside, the archetype and kind of find some different links to replace the cards that we lost. But worst case scenario for me, all this did was just free up some space in my extra deck so I can play other cards that I wanted to play in the first place. So LP is going to be banned coming July the 1st. This takes an effect. Striker Dragon is going to be limited to 1. And Konami decided to follow the trend behind the OCG and hit Trident. Now this hurts me the least out of all the cards they could have touched. I give zero cares about Trident or the Zodiac archetype in general. I think it's very, very just boring, linear. I'm just super nonchalant about this. It is just basically like a Zeus dot deck. Trident is a cool card. Zodiac is a cool deck. I'm not hating on it. I just think it's really boring for my taste. It's not very fun. Sure, it's a one-card engine deck. There's so much room for creativity, splashing, defensive cards, hand traps, tech cards. Do whatever you want. But for me, the deck, it just never was going to be the same in the first place. So them taking away Trident, I'm sure some people have their feelings hurt. But what doesn't make sense to me about this is, why do they always do this? Why do they always take cards off and then put them back on? Like, in my opinion, what was Trident really doing? You know what I mean? Like, what was Zodiac doing besides being splashed in Eldritch, being splashed in Tri-Brigade, and occasionally being played as a pure variant? And it just never really was like this oppressive, dominating, overwhelming, just, sheer force that just nobody could beat. It was just unstoppable. Does she have breasts? I never caught that. I did not know that. I knew that Trident was a girl, but I never noticed those double D's on her. But yeah. So that's pretty much, like, in a nutshell, those are the cards that got hit. They hit LP, they banned LP, they banned Trident, and they limited Striker Dragon to 1. Very good hits. Oh yeah, and the other hit that is one of the most significant, because people be hating on Miss, they put Miss back to 1. Now they're the ones who took it off of 1, took it off the list and put it back to 3 in the first place. So it also for me does not make sense. Why on earth would you guys put it back to 1 when you guys are the ones who took it to 3? It's like the Called by the Grave thing, where like they hit Called by to 2, and then they hit it to 1, and then to 3, and then they hit it to 1 again. It's just, they're so weird sometimes. Like, Konami just doesn't make sense. But yeah, they did hit Miss. Does this hurt my feelings at all? No, I'm pretty sure all those Ooga Booga Dino players are probably a little salty about this. I don't think this kills the deck. I think it definitely kills the follow-ups. You're not going to have the solid follow-ups that you had before. And also, you don't really have to play the mind game of, dang, is he going to chain Misk? to this Mist because I just activated Ice Dragon's Prison, and is he gonna chain Mist? Now they can't do that, you know. So that's pretty cool. The deck was already, in my opinion, a really strong deck, but it was super fair to the extent that, like, people made it seem like Mist just made the deck untouchable, but you had like every other phase, and then on top of that, this deck was very, very, very prone to graveyard disruptions. Cards like DD Crow and Skullmeister, cards like Ice Dragon's Prison, traps in the battle phase. I mean, the deck had, like every other deck, had its weaknesses. I don't think it was just like, oh, dinos are just too OP. But I like the ban list. I like that they also did not touch any shit-all cards, as they should not have. People will complain about Winda, and then the moment people stop playing shit-alls, they're not complaining about Winda. So I like this list. I like the hits. But more notably, what I really like about this ban list is the cards that they took off. I like that they gave us back one copy of Skullcrobat Joker. They could have gave us 3, and Pendulum still wouldn't have been cutting up. You just would have had this sense of euphoria. A lot of people would have just been trying to make some form of Pendulum strategy work. Even people that had not played Pendulums for a long time probably would have went back to it just because Skullcrobat Joker would have been at 3. They also semi-limited double Iris Magician. Is this going to do anything? No, not really. If it wasn't doing anything at 1 and it was searchable at that time, it's definitely not going to do much at 2. All this is just literally a fan favorite thing. There's a lot of people that just love Pendulums. I myself love Pendulums too, but I understand, and I definitely get that the deck is just not in good shape right now. There's just so many hand traps every format. There's so many different decks that are able to push through those as well, and Pendulums being infamously susceptible to the same cards that, you know, like most tier 1 decks are. Like, for example, a lot of the best decks, more often than not, are crippled by Joel and Lockbird, and Joel and Lockbird right now is just super duper prevalent. So I don't think this makes, like, you're gonna see people act crazy and be like, Pendulums are tier 1 again. Like, don't listen to that crap. Like, people normally get a little too excited and exaggerate a bit. It's just a level of consistency that the deck is getting back. It's not like the deck is literally just like a top tier deck, and all of a sudden it's not like it's literally its ceiling is higher. Like, ceiling is the same, consistency is just a little bit better. It's not a huge deal, if you ask me. One of the strangest things they did was Symbol of Heritage to 3. I noticed this card is pretty much a Monster Reborn, while there are 3 monster cards with the same name in your graveyard. That's actually pretty easy to do in some archetypes, so I do think that this is an interesting card. There are going to be some decks that can definitely utilize this to its fullest potential, and the fact that it is not once per turn, and essentially, I believe the cost is just targeting. It's a pretty old card. I'm pretty sure there's not even a cost involved with this, but you still have to declare your target. It's just like another extender. Now, the biggest changes for me and the ban list were taking Engage and putting it to 1, and then my favorite of the whole list was Mirage Stalio coming back. This was the hype moment for me because I actually was anticipating Harpor coming to 1, Mirage Stalio coming back, and potentially Colossus coming back on the last ban list. Now, Colossus is still a pretty unfair card, especially when you think about all the decks that lose to Droll are definitely going to lose to Colossus. But I feel like they could have gave it back and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. It's just nice for some decks to have a breath of fresh air when they've been oppressed for so long. Engage to 1, I like that they kept it at 1 because it prevents the generic applicability of just throwing 3 Engage in any deck that you want and just making it work. Strikers, just having Engage makes the deck a lot stronger than it originally was. Is it going to be tier 1? No, but I'm pretty sure people are going to act like it is. You're going to have people going crazy saying Strikers back, Strikers back. You know, this deck is tier 1, it's insane again. It's just this deck's ceiling is definitely going up now. Its recovery is going up now. Its consistency is going up now. Now 1 Ray or 1 Rose is going to do a lot more going second, specifically with Hayate, than it normally ever was. You're just going to have impeccable resource management and try your hardest not to set this off of multi-roll so that you don't ever lose it. So it's going to be a pretty cool format because you are definitely going to see a lot of people who never even were playing Strikers go back to playing Strikers and act like it's the best deck again. But I will say, while it probably is not going to be the best deck all over again, I don't think that this deck is a joke at all. With no Engage, this deck was already a monster. Like, honestly, like some of my favorite cards being Shark Cannon and Widow Anchor, the ability to use your opponent's cards against them, Shark Cannoning out a Herald of the Arclight or ABC Dragon Buster, back from your opponent's grave to use it against them. It was just such a good feeling. And this deck having Engage is pretty huge. It's not like it's gonna break it. You know, it's not like we're just going into a striker format again. Like, you're gonna hear a lot of people exaggerate, a lot of people make false speculations, and a lot of people are going to overhype things that aren't as crazy as they make it seem. I do like this though, but most notably, I love that they brought Mirage Stalio back. I'm really happy about this. This takes Salamangreat's consistency through the roof a lot more than I think Sky Striker's having Engage, because the only way they could access Engage out of drawing it is dumping it off of Hayate and recurring it off Kagari. But Salamangreat having Mirage Stalio changes the composition of your deck building completely. It gives you so much more room and flexibility to do things that Salamangreat normally could not afford to do because they had to stick to the straight and narrow path. And it was linear in the sense that you knew what plays they were going to make, you could telegraph it, but having a totally different line of play now and an extension to your normal plays at that gives the deck a way higher ceiling than it normally has, and it now has a follow-up plan. Whenever you get hand trapped, following up with the Mirage Stalio or starting with the Mirage Stalio to bait your opponent is really solid, and the fact that you have another form of spot removal, which is super duper good. The only downside to Mirage Stalio is that the monsters, basically, that you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of the turn except fire. But at the end of the day, that's not really going to make much of a difference, especially when you're going first, because that's all the monster effects you're activating. When you're going second, it's just a choice that you can make now. It's a line of play. Like I said, it's a whole nother extension to the lines of plays that you can make, that you have more than just the access code talker, update jammer route now. Now Salamangreat can do everything that it was able to do in the first place. And even though, you know, we still only have one Gazelle and one copy of Circle, we have 3 copies of Signet Mining, we have 3 copies of Lady Debug, we have 3 copies of, man, I'm trying to think of his name. He's a level 3 fire. It's going to come to my, it's going to cross my head in a second. Discard 1 Cyber Straw 2. I'm trying to remember his name. It's really bothering me that I'm forgetting his name, because I played 3 of them. But anyways, we have a lot of consistency and a lot of starters. And now with Mirage Stalio, you guys are going to see my list, and I feel like I'm not the only one who's thinking that way. But this was my list from way back in 2019 that I never got to showcase, because I'm the type of person, I know how Yu-Gi-Oh players are. If you show a deck, because the ban list came out, but the ban list wasn't in effect, so if I showed my deck, they would have said, you know, Mirage Stalio's banned, right? Even though at that time it wasn't in effect, I didn't even want to waste the time and go through the stress of dealing with all these ignorant, repetitive comments. So I'm definitely glad for this to be back. I can't wait to show you guys my list. I'm going to be cutting up with Salad all over again. My only regret taking away from this is that Harpor didn't come back to 1, because Orcus all day, baby. But I do think that it's looking like a pretty solid and healthy format, because we are going to see Dinos get put in check, Dragon Link get put in check. Are they dead? No. And that's another thing. Do not listen to these ignoramus statements saying, oh, Dino's dead now. Oh, Dragon Link's dead now. These decks are not dead. In fact, these decks are still more than likely going to be tier 1 decks, just so you don't get your, your bubble popped. I'm not trying to pee in your Cheerios or anything, but it's just the truth. These decks are still going to be extremely impressive. But now, we also have 2 new runner-ups coming into the format. Without a doubt, you're going to see Striker and Salad all over again. I promise you, you're going to see it. So we're going to have a really cool format with Tri-Brigade Zodiac, Drytrons, Sky Strikers, Salamangreats, Dinosaurs, Dragon Link, Invoke Dogmatica Shadalls. You're also going to have your occasional Eldritch dot decks, your Dragoon dot decks. You will see some Pendulums, and it'll die out because it is what it is. And also, I do think that Zodiac Tri-Brigade is still going to be a thing without Trident. I'm not sure, but I think that they're going to be using it now just to have access to Zeus, because Zeus is just an incredible card. It is quite unfortunate, that, like, Zodiac Tri-Brigade is not going to have access to Trident. It makes Rapier less of a combo starter now, but at the same time, just dumping a name to recur it off Chalk and 9 to make a 1-card Pharanget is still pretty solid. So Zodiac Tri-Brigade is more than likely still going to be a thing, but it just looks like we're going to have a really, really cool, diverse, healthy format. When I see diversity, it screams healthy. I don't care if one deck's suppressive and one deck's not. The fact that there are so many decks able to compete is what makes the format healthy, less repetitive, and a lot of people are going to enjoy this. So with all that said, God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. You will definitely be hearing from me soon, and you will be seeing some of my new lists with the new ban list, including my new striker list. Peace, you guys.